At the start of the movie, there's a scene where a hurt young woman wakes up slowly in a completely white room. She gets scared when she opens her eyes and sees where she is. She tries to get up, but can't because her legs are hurt and wrapped in bandages. Then, a man's voice, sounding kind of creepy, talks to her. He says his name is Thomas Allcroft, and that he's the one who took her. Thomas says he won't let her go until she loves him. He starts telling her things about herself, like her name is Ruby Watts, where she's from, and where she went to school. He even knows stuff about her parents and that she's scared of the dark. Ruby doesn't remember anything about being taken or her life before that. She cries and asks Thomas what he did to her knees, which are hurt. Thomas says he messed up her ligaments and tells her not to move if she wants to walk again. He also says he didn't touch her personal stuff, which is in a black bag on a chair by the door. On the floor beside Ruby, there's some food and a small cup with 2 pills. Thomas tells Ruby he gave her 2 pills, one to prevent pregnancy and one for pain. He explains their routine. She'll get food every day, he'll help her with washing and using the bathroom, and their days will start at 7 a.m. and end at 11 p.m. He says escaping is almost impossible because they're far from other houses. Then Thomas leaves Ruby alone in the room. The next morning, Thomas rouses Ruby from her feigned slumber to deliver breakfast. Seemingly asleep, Ruby quickly adopts a serious demeanor once he departs, surreptitiously investigating her belongings. She discovers her ID and a mirror, her reflection prompting confusion. Sensing a shadow outside, she hastily conceals her items, grabbing a plastic ball before Thomas's return, stowing it in her pocket. Observing Ruby's discomfort, Thomas administers more medication and hand-feeds her before leaving. The subsequent day, Ruby awakens in agony, attempting to rise but halting due to her injured legs. Thomas, already present, reaffirms his identity and his intent to keep her until she reciprocates his affection. Reiterating his knowledge of Ruby's life, Thomas acknowledges his role in her injury, claiming it's to prevent her escape, yet assuring her of eventual healing. Encouraging compliance with medication, he defends his provision of contraceptive pills. Ruby recalls her futile attempts to flee and remains silent until Thomas departs. Persisting with her inquiries, Ruby provokes Thomas's ire, resulting in him hurling her bag aside before exiting. Alone, Ruby inspects the hidden ball in her bracelet. Subsequently, Thomas assists with Ruby's rehabilitation and hygiene routines. During the night, Ruby repeatedly strikes the ball against the door. A discovery of a wound on her head prompts frustration as she struggles to examine it in the broken mirror. Concealing glass under a bandage on her knee, she awaits Thomas's return in the ensuing sedation. Thomas employs discouraging audio at night to thwart escape attempts, maintaining vigilance while sleeping in a nearby chair. As his alarm rouses him the following morning, he departs, leaving Ruby to her routine. She continues her nightly ritual of playing with the ball, occasionally attempting sabotage such as tampering with the sink's pipes, yet Thomas appears unperturbed during his subsequent visits. During Thomas's investigation of Ruby's actions, Ruby expresses concern about being stuck with him forever if she doesn't fall in love with him. She makes a lighthearted joke about her legs, confusing Thomas, who then offers to make her stay more comfortable. Ruby requests a pillow, blanket, and a book, which Thomas agrees to provide. Noticing 2 drawings on the wall, Ruby compliments them, and Thomas acknowledges her improved appearance, prompting her to repeat her request for the items. The next day, Ruby receives the items and realizes she's read the book before, sparking memories from before her captivity. Thomas offers to help her remember, and Ruby expresses gratitude. Later, Thomas asks if Ruby wants anything when he brings her food. She asks for red bush tea, and he brings it right away. Smelling it triggers a memory for Ruby. She smiles and asks Thomas if he knew she would choose that tea. He smiles and says it's the only thing she drinks. Ruby questions Thomas about his knowledge of her, to which he replies that he did his research. Later, she discovers a page in her book with strange letters, which form the words "Don't trust him" when she places a mirror piece on them. Thomas joins her for dinner, and they discuss the book, with Ruby expressing her enjoyment of it. When Thomas tries to hold her hand, she withdraws and accuses him of harming and killing other women like her. Thomas denies these accusations but becomes angry, wiping blood off his arm. Ruby insists their relationship is special and doesn't want him to have hurt anyone else. Thomas swears there's no one else involved and leaves, prompting Ruby's scared expression to vanish, revealing her pretense. The next day, Thomas informs Ruby that her legs are healing but need more time. Ruby checks her legs and finds no cuts. Trying to open the door triggers a memory of her and a man at her front door. Unable to open it, she returns to bed. While reading her book, she smudges the ink, triggering a memory of hiding matches behind a brick in the room. Later during dinner, Ruby requests a candle to create a romantic atmosphere. As Thomas lights it, they agree to start over. Ruby shares her recurring dream of sinking underwater, gradually reaching for a match without Thomas noticing. The scene transitions to Ruby's daily activities, including writing in her book, exercising her legs, and practicing with the broken mirror. She pretends her legs are still injured while Thomas assists her, and it's revealed she wrote "play along" in her book. The next morning, Ruby does push-ups and rushes to her bed when she hears Thomas coming. She pretends to read her book to avoid suspicion. Thomas suggests they exercise before dinner, and Ruby agrees. As they walk, Ruby pretends her legs hurt. When they reach the other side, Thomas praises her progress and suggests dinner upstairs if she keeps improving. In the evening, they have dinner, and Thomas encourages Ruby to taste the meal, triggering a memory of a happy dinner at a restaurant. Thomas surprises Ruby by putting a necklace on her and kissing her forehead, reminiscing about their past together. Ruby, shocked, asks if they were together before, and Thomas confirms, recalling the meal as their anniversary. Ruby smiles through tears. Later, Ruby brushes her teeth before bed. While admiring the wall drawings, Ruby notices RAW written in one corner. In the morning, she sees someone in a boat through a small window. Later, she and Thomas discuss her book, surrounded by crayon drawings. Thomas falls asleep on her bed, prompting Ruby to quietly approach the door. Thomas advises her to wear a coat, but she picks up her ball instead. The next day, Thomas dances with Ruby, triggering a memory of them dancing at a party where he professed his love. Ruby reciprocates, believing they were together. Thomas then explains how to use the room's electronics remote, and they dance to music. Ruby starts crying, questioning how they reached this point, and Thomas agrees to explain. In a flashback, Ruby waits for Thomas at a bar with her roommate Nick, who tries to kiss her. He knocks her out and assaults her, prompting Thomas to intervene and kill Nick. Thomas takes Ruby to his home, where she wakes up with amnesia. Thomas stops Rob from calling an ambulance, opting to help Ruby regain her memory instead. They go to an abandoned island farm, where Thomas keeps Ruby prisoner. Over time, Thomas learns about Ruby's amnesia, which resets after she sleeps a lot. Thomas tries to trigger Ruby's memory with pictures, but she doesn't respond at first. He learns ways to control her sleep patterns so she can learn more each day. When he gives her a favorite book, Ruby starts showing progress. Thomas keeps trying, but he believes they need a fresh start for Ruby to fully trust him and regain her memory. So he creates the White Room and invents the story about her legs and the kidnapping. When Thomas finishes explaining, Ruby cries and seems to remember everything. They become intimate and fall asleep. Ruby wakes up first and stops Thomas's alarm. She uses a broken mirror piece to stab him and tries to escape. Thomas tries to stop her, but she kicks him away and runs outside. She collapses before she can escape. Ruby wakes up in a hospital room. The doctor, who is actually Thomas, says she'll be okay, but might have some memory loss from her injury. Thomas has created another scenario to try to gain Ruby's trust and help her remember. Don't forget to comment, what movie would you like me to recap? Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video.